Hello and welcome, bringing you the latest updates from around the world. Stay tuned as we dive into today's top headlines. One dies in Moscow as Ukrainian drones hit Russia. Israeli strikes in Gaza kill dozens. Search for victims still ongoing. China, Russia to hold joint naval air drills soon. And Australia plans to ban minors from social media use. Harris prepares for pivotal debate against Trump. Stay with me for these and more stories. Talking Russia-Ukraine war, according to Russian officials, a woman has been killed in Moscow after the fragments of a downed Ukrainian drone hit the apartment block where she was living and started a fire. Andrei Vorobyov, Moscow regional governor, said debris from the drone destroyed at least two high-rise apartment buildings in the Remenskoye district in the early hours of Tuesday, setting many flats on fire. Emergency teams had been sent to a number of locations across the region as well as to the area close to the Zhukovo airport and around the Domodedovo district, the site of one of Moscow's biggest airport city. Mayor Sergei Sobyanin said over 30 flights were halted. Russia said its air defenses shot down over 70 Ukrainian drones during the night, with at least 15 intercepted in and around Moscow. According to official data, the Remenskoye district, some 50 kilometers 31 miles southeast of the Kremlin, has a population of around 250,000 people. Governor Alexander Bogozman said in the region of Bryansk, which borders Ukraine, 59 enemy aircraft type UAVs have been stopped and destroyed. He described the attack as massive but said there were no casualties or damage. Two more Ukrainian drones were intercepted in the Tula region, south of Moscow, reports said. Over 2.5 years since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion, Ukraine has fast-tracked the development of its domestic drone industry to allow it to attack Russia's energy, military and transport infrastructure. Ukraine did not comment on the attack, which came as air raid warnings sounded in Kyiv amid another Russian drone assault on the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv. On Israel-Gaza war, according to local rescue officials, no less than 40 have been killed in an overnight Israeli strike on a humanitarian zone established to shelter displaced people in southern Gaza, in what Israel has said was an operation aiming Hamas fighters in the area. Over 60 people were also injured in the strike, according to the Gaza civil defense, as rescuers raced to recover victims buried under sand and debris. The ground said its crews were facing great difficulty in retrieving victims, several of whom were believed to have been sleeping at the time of the strikes due to a lack of resources and paucity of light. The Israel Defense Forces IDF said on Monday evening that it struck significant Hamas terrorists who were operating within a command and control center embedded inside the humanitarian area in Khan Younis, Gaza. Hamas denied it had placed fighters in the area. The strike hit Al-Mawasi, a coastal region in Khan Younis, where tens of thousands of displaced Palestinians have fled, many living in tents in an area with scant infrastructure, little access to shelter or life-saving humanitarian aid. Israel's military said the operation was carried out with the direction of the Israel Security Agency and the Air Force, and that steps were taken to mitigate civilian harm, including the use of precise munitions, aerial surveillance, and additional means. The military did not say whether it warned civilians in the area. Hamas called Israel's claims that its fighters were in the area a blatant lie through which Israel seeks to defend these heinous crimes. In its statement, Hamas said dozens of unharmed civilians, most of whom were children and women, were killed in the strike. Mahmoud Basel, Gaza civil defense spokesperson, said Palestinians in the area were not warned of the strike in advance. There were over 200 tents of displaced people at Al-Mawasi area, Basel said, adding about 20 to 40 tents were destroyed and entire families have disappeared in the sand. Eyewitnesses said that at least 5 missiles struck the area, according to the Gaza civil defense. The explosion formed 3 large craters, Basel said. The IDF has accused Hamas and other militant groups in the Gaza Strip of continuing to systematically abuse civilians and humanitarian infrastructure, including the designated humanitarian area, to carry out terrorist activity against the State of Israel and IDF troops. Israel has earlier hit Al-Mawasi in a pursuit for Hamas commanders, and former strikes have caused major civilian collateral casualties. In mid-July, a strike targeted at Hamas's military chief, Mohammed Deif, killed at least 90 Palestinians. The following month, Israel said its intelligence community had confirmed that Dave, one of the reported masterminds of the October 7th attacks, was killed in that very raid. Israel says it has killed or captured half of Hamas's commanders and over 14,000 combatants since the war started. However, there are clear indications of the group's resurgence in parts of the Strip earlier cleared by Israeli forces, who devastated large swaths of the area in the process. Now, China's Ministry of National Defense has announced it will hold joint naval and air exercises with Russia beginning this month, underlining the close relations between the militaries of the two countries. The Northern United 2024 drills will take place in the Sea of Japan and the Sea of Okhotsk farther north, the ministry said, but gave no date or further details. The Japanese Ministry of Defense said it had observed 5 Chinese Navy vessels sailing northeastwards through the Tsushima Strait towards the Sea of Japan from Saturday to Sunday. The Japan Self-Defense Forces conducted vigilance monitoring and intelligence gathering with a vessel and patrol plane, the ministry said in a statement on Monday, releasing photos of the ships. The Tsushima Strait lies between South Korea and Japan and linking the South China Sea and the Sea of Japan, known as the East Sea to Koreans, and is not within Japan's territorial waters. Announcing the exercises, China said they were intended to boost strategic cooperation between the two countries and strengthen the ability to jointly deal with security threats. The notice also said the two navies will cruise together in the Pacific, the 5th time they have done so, and together take part in Russia's Great Ocean 24 exercise. China has strengthened its ties with Russia since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. It has not condemned the invasion but has called regularly for an end to the fighting. It has also emerged as a key economic lifeline for Russia, buying its oil and gas and supplying electronics and other items. China's rising economic and military clout and its assertiveness in territorial disputes, most recently with the Philippines over the South China Sea, has rattled the United States and its allies, including Japan. Japan scrambled fighter jets after what it called the first confirmed incursion by a Chinese military aircraft into its airspace. It lodged a protest last week after a Chinese naval ship entered its territorial waters. Japan has territorial clashes with China over the remote Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea and with Russia over the Kuril Islands between Hokkaido and Kamchatka. Ties between Tokyo and Moscow have declined sharply since the Ukrainian invasion, with Japan joining the United States and other key allies to join sanctions against Moscow. Australia is planning to bar children from using social media amid worries that platforms like Instagram and TikTok are negatively impacting young people's physical and mental health. On Tuesday, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said the government will launch an age verification trial in the coming months ahead of the introduction of legislation to enforce a ban. Albanese said his centre-left Labour Party government is considering a minimum age of between 14 and 16. Albanese said parents are worried sick about their children's use of social media and are walking without a map. Opposition leader Peter Dutton, the head of the centre-right Liberal Party, has earlier expressed backing for banning social media for those under 16 years old. China, France and many states in the United States have passed laws targeted at restricting social media use by minors amid concerns over online harms ranging from cyberbullying to unrealistic beauty standards. Critics have argued that such steps impose on young people's rights to expression and pose risk to privacy. Daniel Angus, professor of digital communication at the Queensland University of Technology, criticized Australia's proposed bar as reckless, populist and a misguided distraction. Such a ban will create serious harm by excluding young people from meaningful, healthy participation in the digital world, potentially driving them to lower quality online spaces and removing an important means of social connection, Angus said on Tuesday. Now on US 2024 election, Kamala Harris's joyful campaign will on Tuesday be hit by the blunt force of reality, a debate with Donald Trump, the most alarming political foe of modern times. The vice president transformed the 2024 election after President Joe Biden's abject debate showing against Trump in June led him to end his re-election bid. She restored many swing states to the electoral battlefield and has had Democrats dreaming of a stunning turnabout in a race most thought they were well on the way to losing. Yet her success in uniting her party, branding herself as a fresh voice of generational change and closing into a dead heat with Trump in polling has so far not concreted a dependable path to the 270 electoral votes required to win the presidency. Indeed, if the election were on Tuesday, the ex-president, who has already defied an assassination attempt and scores of criminal charges, could still win. Presidential debates usually don't decide elections, notwithstanding the catastrophic effect of Biden's whiteout. But Tuesday night represents the best remaining chance for Harris to drive home a decisive argument that could thwart Trump's historic comeback. Her assignment in Philadelphia will need the use of rhetorical skills that have been often questioned in an uneven vice presidency. While she has had her moments in debates and Senate hearings, Harris has sometimes battled to articulate clear policies and answers under pressure in spontaneous situations. Her willingness to submit only one major media interview since becoming the Democratic nominee last month has only raised the bar for her performance in what is so far the only scheduled debate with Trump. And while the ex-president has now taken part in presidential debates in 3 separate elections, this will be Harris's first venture onto the debate stage since her meeting with former Vice President Mike Pence in 2020. As she seeks to become the first black woman and South Asian president, Harris will come into close quarters for the first time with a rival who will do anything to win and who has a history of using racial and gender tropes for political gain. Trump has queried her intelligence and race as a black woman and has amplified a sexual innuendo about her on social media. But the vice president seems determined not to be drawn into his traps. Harris has far less top-level political experience than either 2016 Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton or Biden when they confronted Trump in presidential debates. And even some members of her own party didn't believe that she was the strongest potential Democratic leader for a post-Biden era. But on Tuesday, Harris has a chance to change narratives about her political insight and to put down a marker for the sprint to November 5th election. More stories now. US-China commanders meet to reduce risk of missteps. On Tuesday, American and Chinese military commanders spoke in a long-anticipated call as the two powers seek to manage their growing rivalry in a contentious Asia-Pacific region and repair lines of military communications severed over 2 years ago. Samuel Paparo, U.S. Indo-Pacific Command Admiral, and General Wu Yanan, commander of the People's Liberation Army's PLA's Southern Theater Command, spoke, according to statement from both sides. The call marks a step forward in what has been a slow restoration of high-level U.S.-China military cooperations and communications in recent months, as the two sides stir a host of regional tensions, including over Beijing's aggressions in the South China Sea and toward Taiwan. Beijing severed high-level military-to-military communication with the U.S. in August 2022, following visit by then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan, the self-ruling democratic island that China's ruling Communist Party claims as its own. China and the U.S. agreed to hold a commander-level call in the near future during a visit from White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan to Beijing late last month. Paparo underscored in Tuesday's call that having sustained lines of communication between senior military leaders serves to clarify intent and reduce the risk of misperception and miscalculation, according to a White House readout. He also cited several recent PLA unsafe interactions with U.S. allies and called on the PLA to comply with international laws and norms to ensure operational safety. He also urged the PLA to reconsider its use of dangerous, coercive and potentially escalatory tactics in the South China Sea and beyond, said the readouts, which characterized the talks as a constructive and respectful exchange of views. A readout published by China on Tuesday morning confirmed the talks and simply said the two sides exchanged in-depth views on issues of common concern. The resumption of the commander-level talks comes amid especially rising tensions in the South China Sea, where Chinese and Philippine ships have been engaged in a series of increasingly violent but so far non-lethal confrontations in recent months. Beijing claims the sea almost in its entirety, despite a major international ruling to the contrary, and the U.S. has in recent months reiterated Washington's ironclad commitment to defend its treaty ally, the Philippines. Analysts have long cautioned that a miscalculation in the South China Sea could quickly spiral into a damaging regional conflict between the world's two largest economies, and that a lack of communication could compound those risks. The talks also play out amid a range of frictions between Washington and Beijing, including over China's close relations to Russia and what the U.S. says is its support for Moscow's defense industrial base, as well as Beijing's concerns that the U.S. is tightening ties with its regional allies to contain China. Tuesday's call marks a rare point of contact between top military officials leading American troops into the Indo-Pacific and Chinese strategy in the southern and eastern theater, respectively. It comes within a wider, slow resumption of high-level military communication following a meeting between U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping in November. In African scenes, Egypt vows to push for a Gaza ceasefire until it's achieved. On Monday, Egyptian and Danish officials met in Cairo as part of the diplomatic effort to avert further violence and escalation in the Middle East. Egypt highlighted the need for a truce in Gaza, including an exchange of Israeli hostages and Palestinian detainees. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdulati said Cairo will continue to make every possible effort to achieve an end to the fighting. Laszlo Rasmussen, Denmark's foreign minister, lauded Egypt for its ongoing efforts to mediate and secure a ceasefire, which is key to stopping further escalation. On Tuesday, he will visit the Rafah crossing and express his worries about the humanitarian situation in the Palestinian enclave. The two also deliberated a long-term solution to the situation in the Palestinian territories. Rasmussen said the two-state solution remains the viable solution to the problem between Israel and Palestine, and this is important as we seek a solution as quickly as possible. On climate crisis, death toll climbs in Algeria and Morocco floods. The death toll keeps rising in Algeria and Morocco following deadly flooding triggered by torrential rains. Over 20 people have died and dozens others are missing in both countries after floods inundated villages in the normally arid region. In Morocco, homes were damaged and infrastructure, including roads, electricity, water supply, and food networks, were destroyed. Officials say the 2 days of storms on the weekend in some cases saw rain beyond the annual average rainfall. The torrential rains came at a time when the country is battling with a water shortage caused by 6 consecutive years of drought. It was a similar situation in neighboring Algeria, with bridges and train lines also damaged. The government has sent thousands of civil protection and military officers to help emergency response efforts and assist people stuck in their homes. Rescue efforts continue in both countries. We take a breather now. When we come back, stories from Nigeria. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It's Zuma Nigeria now, and we begin with Ajiro Freedom amid outrage over his arrest. Apprehended Nigeria Labour Congress NLC President Comrade Joe Ajiro was released late on Monday by the Department of State Services DSS, even as the government agency's action has been received by widespread condemnation nationwide. According to reports, Ajiro was released about 11:10 p.m. local time yesterday. Ajiro was arrested at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport in Abuja on his way to London to attend the Trade Union Congress TUC of the United Kingdom Conference, which started yesterday. His arrest came as the secret police laid siege to the Abuja office of the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project SERAP for allegedly asking the government to reverse the recent hike in the price of petrol. However, SERAP has asked President Bola Tinubu to direct the DSS to stop its attack. Confirming Ajaro's arrest, the head of information of the NLC, Benson Upa, said the union had no idea of the whereabouts of Ajiro, saying he that it was the DSS that arrested him. According to report yesterday that the Labour leader had been moved to the National Intelligence Agency (NIA). His arrest came 11 days after he honored an invitation by the police on August 29th and was released the same day. A day before he honored the invitation, the police on August 28th re-invited Ajaro in furtherance of investigations into an alleged case of criminal intimidation, conduct likely to cause a breach of public peace and malicious damage to properties, in which the name featured in. Legal advisor to NLC Femi Falana's son, speaking on the issue yesterday, said the arrest of his client was not linked with an earlier invitation by the police, adding that the secret police had failed to provide any reason for Ajaro's arrest. Also, the NLC dismissed insinuations that Ajaro was arrested for failing to honor an invitation by the DSS or any other security agency, saying the report was nothing but mere mischief. Finally on the news, AGF Fagbemi says no pardon for convicted corrupted officials. Prince Lateef Fagbemi's son, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, has declared that those found guilty of corruption should not enjoy state pardon. He also advised law enforcement agencies against conducting careless investigations, urging them to make sure they have their facts straight before summoning anyone for questioning. According to a statement by his media aide Kamaruddin Agundele, the AGF spoke at a roundtable organized by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission's (ICPC) for State Attorneys General in Abuja on Monday. Fagbemi stressed that the cooperation of all stakeholders, particularly the Attorneys General, is key in the fight against corruption. He advised them to avoid nepotism, political witch hunting, rivalry and bigotry in their efforts to combat corruption, particularly to please their governors. He also stated that there should be no justification for rationalizing corruption or crimes, adding that their legal opinions on cases must be based on facts as practiced in advanced countries. Fagbemi then advised participants and anti-graft agencies to conduct detailed investigations of cases before apprehending suspects to avoid media trials. Another look at the top stories. One dies in Moscow as Ukrainian drones hit Russia. Israeli strikes on Gaza killed dozens. Search for victims still ongoing. China-Russia to hold joint naval and air drills soon. Australia plans to ban minors from social media use. And Harris prepares for bivotal debate against Trump. And that's all on the news. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.